Hey everybody, this is a continuation of 4-2 working papers that we started in class. So I just kind of wanted you to finish this for homework. I just have where we left off. So we were able to finish the cash account in class. So that was completed. We transferred all the transactions from the general journal to the ledger account, the cash account. So that all the ones from the general journal have been transferred down there. Just to reiterate this, you got to make sure you put the dates in. The post-reference column in the general ledger, it refers to the page number and the journal that you're taking the information from. So for the general journal, it's going to be G, and then the page number is going to be 1 or 2, depending on where you're pulling information from. Whatever it is up here in the journal, it's going to be down here in the ledger. So if it was a $2,500 debit up in the journal, it's going to be a $2,500 debit in the ledger, okay? After you put that first transaction, you just carry that over to the balance columns, okay? After that, every transaction after that is going to be either added or subtracted from the top line, from the first balance, okay? So these balance columns, debit and credit columns, they keep a running balance of each account. And depending on the type of account it is, cash is an asset that has a normal debit balance, all right? So right here in this example, the next transaction was a credit. So because you have a debit balance and a credit transaction, you're going to subtract. And then you get a new balance, okay? Then the following transaction was a debit transaction. So if you have a debit transaction and a debit balance, you're going to add them together, okay? So I know I said in class quickly, a quick way to remember this is regardless of what the balance is, whether it's a debit or credit, if the next transaction is the same, so in other words, if you have a debit balance and then a debit transaction, or if you have a credit balance and a credit transaction, you're always going to add. But if they're different, then you subtract. So if you have a debit balance and a credit transaction, then you're going to subtract. If you have a credit balance and a debit transaction, then you'll subtract, okay? So you'll get used to it as you go along. We finished the accounts receivable one also in school, so that one's completed. And just remember, after you finish the general ledger, you have to go back up into the journal and place the account numbers for the accounts right next to, right in the post-reference column in the general journal, right next to the transaction. Okay, so for the cash account, we entered 110 in all of those transactions because we posted all those transactions. And for this accounts receivable for Dan Carroll, we entered 120 next to the that account in the post-reference column because we posted that. All right, so we're going to move on to the third ledger, which is the supplies account. It's only giving us room for one line, so we only have to worry about transferring one transaction. So let's look and see. Here it is. It's April 4th. There is supplies up here. So April 4th has a debit of 160 up here. So let's go ahead and just enter that in here. So it's April 4th. And we're getting that from General Journal page 1. It's a debit of 160. No other changes. So supplies account just has a $160 balance in it, okay? The supplies account number is 130. You want to make sure you go back up into the General Journal and enter the account number in the post-reference column. And that's it. That's that one, okay? Let's open up the prepaid insurance account. Again, we have one line available for us. So that's a big old hint that we're only looking for one transaction. So here it is. April 3rd, prepaid insurance, a debit of $330. So let's go ahead and put the date in here first, April 3rd. We got this from G1. It's a debit of $330. So you're just going to bring that over to the balance column. That's a $330 balance. Okay, so for prepaid insurance, that's account number 140. You want to come back up here and make sure you put 140 on that line in the post-reference column. Okay? All right, this is going pretty smoothly. Okay, accounts payable for ready supply. We'll open that up. We're going to look for two transactions here. So I can see 1, 2. Here we go. So on April 4th, accounts payable ready supply, looks like we have a credit of 160. So let's add that in first. Let me hide these tools. April 4th, and we're getting this from General Journal page 1. And it looks like there is a credit of 160. All right, so we're going to bring that over to the balance column as well. And then on April 15th, accounts payable ready supply, looks like there is a debit of $80. So we're going to put the 15th here, G1, and it looks like there was a debit of $80. So that means you're subtracting this 80 from the 160 balance, and that's going to leave you a balance of $80. Now, just to give you some context and explain what happened here, accounts payable is a liability. So it looks like we bought something from them on account, since it's an account payable and we owe them money, and we spent $160. So liabilities increase on the credit side. So this is a $160 credit balance for this Ready Supply company, right? But then it looks like on April 15th, we sent cash to them. We sent, and if you look back up here, look, on April 15th, it looks like we sent a check number 3, cash went down by $80. So the liability account is going to decrease with a debit entry. So 80 is on the debit side. And look, that's exactly what happened. Subtracted from the balance, and we now only owe them $80. Okay? All right, so that account number is 210. You want to come back up here and make sure you put the account number in the post-reference column next to those transactions. Okay? All right, so the next one is Omar. We're still calling him Bougie. Omar Bougie capital account. We have one line here. So let's see where this one is. Let's see if it's, okay, it's up here on April 1st. So on April 1st, there is a $2,500 credit. So let's go ahead and list that in here. April 1st from G1, $2,500 credit. Just carry that over to the balance column. And that's it. That account number is 310. So we're going to come back up here to the post-reference column and enter 310 next to that transaction. Okay? All right. We're moving right along here. So let's open up the Omar Bougie account for the drawing. Okay? And we were looking for one transaction here. We have one line available to us. So let's see what we have. I don't see it on this first page, so it's must be on the second page here, and it is. Okay, so Omar Bougie, the drawing account, there's a debit of $500, and the date is April 25th. So let's go ahead and put in April 25, and don't forget the General Journal page 2 this time, because we're pulling this from the second page, and it's a $500 debit, $500 debit balance. Okay. And this is account number 320. So we come up here to the post reference and put 320 in there. All right. And we move back to page 1 because actually page 2 is finished. So I'm going to move back to page 1. The rest of the accounts are on that page. Okay. So I'm going to close that drawing account, open up the sales account, and we're looking for 2 transactions. We have 2 lines here. And let's move up a little bit. We have 2. So we have one on April 8th and one on April 9th. Okay, so on April 8th, we have a credit of $325. All right, so let's go ahead and put that in here. April 8th, credit, and we got this from page 1, a credit of $325, right? I just want to make sure, did I say that right? Yes, $325. $325, we're going to carry that over to the balance column, $325 credit balance so far. And then the next one is on April 9th. We have another credit, sales of $122. So on April 9th here, we're going to put the date in here. This is still the same, G1. We have a credit of $122. And the balance is $447. Okay. The account number is 410. So let's come up here and make sure we put that in the post-reference column. So that's 410. That goes next to that sales transaction, and 410 right here. Okay. All right. And let's see, we have one more. So let's open up rent expense, and we're looking for one transaction, and I can see it right here, April 12th. So we're going to go ahead and put the date in. This is from General Journal page 1. And it looks like we have a debit of $260. Oops, $260. And I'm just going to carry that over into the balance column. So this is completed. We have account number 510 that has to come up here in the post-reference column of the journal, and we close that. So the general ledger is completed, and look, you can tell that it's completed and everything's been posted because when you look at the post-reference column, all the account numbers have been inserted. All right, so that shows that anyone looking at this general journal page can assume that all of these transactions have been posted to their corresponding ledger account, and same thing for page 2. All right, so I'm going to stop the video now, and hopefully we can get the application problem with no problem. All right, see ya.